Hello everyone, I'm Miss Henneman. In our today's video, we'll talk about what I think it is the biggest challenge we can face in our lives, which is confronting ourselves. Then, from now on, we'll be talking about confrontation. And then from this point, I ask you, how can you define this word? Or how can we define confrontation? Or have we any kind of personal experience to support our understanding about this word today? So in this case, if we don't have it yet, today's video is exactly about a very important personal moment between Jesus and one of his disciples, in this case, Peter. So, do you remember those intimate confrontational conversations when certain issues come to us and they seem like they are undressing us or make us feel like we are naked or completely uncovered because of the confrontation with ourselves, without giving us a way out to escape from ourselves in the situation or the conflict we have inside of us? That is exactly what we'll talk about today. And then to support all my comments, I will use this reference from John chapter 21, from verse 15 to 17. It looks a kind of short, but in fact it has a lot of details and we will need time to work well with each one of them. Then to start and help us to be familiar with the whole context of this conversation, I will just read one verse, just one, which is the verse 15, because this verse shows here my main question to discuss and start with you during this time. And by the way, today is just the introduction. Next, you'll have the first, second, third part for the same topic. Then, verse 15 says, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than this? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. So this verse here is already complete. It is already beautiful and very, very deep. But I see, like other languages, English also does not show the deeper details of vocabulary or the deeper words in comparison with the words we know already. Here we just see, for example, the word love, but we don't know which kind of love Jesus is talking about and why he uses this kind of love or this kind of category of love to ask to Peter. We don't know. We cannot know through our language. For this reason, I will jump immediately to the original from the same verse. So, this is the original language of the New Testament, which includes John, the Gospel of John, and in particular is the Greek koine. The Greek koine is the easier and simplest to understand. It is the Greek Jesus spoke when he was here with the people around him, because the people were simple, poor, probably they didn't have a high education, they didn't know how to speak very in high style, so Jesus preferred to learn the Greek koine because it's simplest, everybody can understand easily. So in this case, the Greek koine says about the same verse 15. We read this way. Hote eriste to Simoni Petro ho Jesus. Sίμων Ιωάννου, ἀγαπᾷς, πλέον, tούτων. This is a question. We have This symbol here is a question. ἀγαπᾷς με πλέον τούτων, λέγε οτό. Νάι Κύριε, σου οἶδας ότε φιλώσει. Λέγε οτό. Ως και τα αρνία μου. So these verses very, very, very beautiful and very deep. But as I say, it today is just an introduction. I will not explain each detail like I always like to do, because even I love to do this. But I will go directly to my main point, is because I will explain a little more complete during these 3 parts we will see from next week. So the first thing we will see here is the way as Jesus asked Peter this question. He asked Peter, Simon Peter, do you love me? This is the first part of the question. And then what Peter says? What he say, yes, you know that I love you. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. It was the first part of the conversation. But in this case, we don't know, as I say, which kind of love or word Jesus used in the original language to ask this question. For this reason, we'll go very quick to the original Greek and we'll say the same part. We'll see here, you read the same. Σίμων Ιωάννου, ἀγαπᾷς με. This is the same part of here. Σίμων Peter, right? In this case, Σίμων Ιωάννου is literally Simon, son of John. As we have here, in the word, the question is, ἀγαπᾷς με πλέον τούτων. This symbol here is a question in Greek. ἀγαπᾷς με πλέον τούτο corresponds to do you love me more than this? So the thing here is, in Greek we have some important words which means love. And then today I will show you the 4 more common, which are more used by so many people around the world. So in Greek, the first word which shows the first more important high category of love is the word ἀγάπη, which means perfect love, which is the love of God. Just God has a perfect love. For this, ἀγάπη is translated as perfect love. The second category here is φιλíα, which is the people love, the person love, or fraternal love. This is the love which we have naturally. It comes from us as the human love. And because yes, the people or human love is also an imperfect love. So while ἀγάπη is the perfect love, φιλíα is the imperfect love. Storge is the third category of love in Greek. It means familia or family love. It is the love which grows between family, parents and children, and vice versa. And the last is eros, which is the sexual love. But it is not our topic today because we are not talking about marriage, right? For example. So then we come back to our question. The first observation for me is when Jesus asked ἀγαπᾷς με πλέον τούτων, there is a question here, question mark. So when he asked Peter, ἀγαπᾷς me amas ou amas a mim, which word Jesus used? He used this word ἀγαπᾷς, which comes from ἀγάπη, which is perfect love. In other words, Jesus asked Peter, do you love me with perfect love? And then on top of this, besides to ask Jesus if he loved him with a perfect love, Jesus added this expression πλέον. Πλέον in Greek is literally more, as you see here in English, but not just more. It's more, but also much more. Do you love me with a perfect love much more than this? Much more than πλέον τούτων? tούtων corresponded to this pronoun which points to someone or a group who is close. So these people were not so far from this. The pronoun is this. And I think in this point, Jesus was pointing to the other disciples, maybe, do you love me with a perfect love more than this, the group beside, right? It's just my imagination. So then, first part, do you love him with a perfect love? Pleon. More, much more, or more abundantly, or more deeply, more completely, higher love. In this case, Jesus was adding two things so strong together to ask Peter, do you love him with a perfect love much more abundantly than this? It was the main question of Jesus here from the original. So, first observation, Jesus asked Peter, do you love me with a perfect love, which is ἀγάπη, ἀγαπᾷς me, perfect love. Now you jump to Peter's answers. He say here, nai Kyrie, yes Lord, in English. Tu oidas hote φιλόσαι. In English, he say, you know that I love you. Tu oidas hote φιλόσαι. Now, if you observe Peter's answer, he used it to say, yes, I love you, using which category of love? The second category, which is filía, and here φιλۆ. The end is different because this letter here indicates the first of singular. So here I say I, this I corresponds to this letter here, omega, and then this is the root of the verb love, the second category, the love which comes from people, from me, from Peter. So this is the very important observation I want to say now because we'll discuss this next video, next week. The second observation is the word pleon, as you say already, pleon, which is more, much more, more abundantly, more deeply, more completely, more everything else. Much more than the common, much more than the normal. Right? So this is the second. After this is the Peter's answer, legioto nai Kyrios, oidas hote philos. And then Jesus say, legioto, say him, or he say, bosketa arnia mu. Boske here is a very powerful word, because this word brings what? We'll see first in English. In English, it's just to feed is a correct expression, but boske is not just to feed like as English is showing here. Boske is literally to feed until the lamb is satisfied and pleased, complete. Why? Because the word bosk, this word bosk, can make the people, or brings the idea that someone like Peter, for example, can make the people feel so completely satisfied to the point to have peace. And peace, permanent peace, to rest, to relax. It is very important because at the end we'll see how Jesus connect all this context with a pastor, or the ministry to become or to be a pastor in the ministry of God. So when we see this word, we understand the pastor or pastors means much more than to have a position, or to have a title, or to have something else from the congregation, the denomination, or however, but God called pastors in particular, because this whole reference will point directly to the pastor. Call pastors to give the people peace and permanent peace. It is literally bosque. Rio is just a feed, but feed with a complete meaning, complete everything the people need, to the point to give them a permanent peace. E then he say, bosque ta arnia mu. This word arnia is, yes, as lambs. Some other versions says the arnia is also a sheep, which in Greek is probata, and it is not. Next videos you will see the difference between lambs and sheep. And also you'll see the difference between bosque, which is give peace, permanent, and poimena, which is how to work as a pastor, how to be a pastor in front of the God's lambs and sheep. We'll try to see the difference next videos. It is just introduction, then we'll go a little faster now. So in the whole conversation, my main question is this one I show right now. Simon, son of John, do you love me more than this? The word more here was the evidence, because more brings the intensity of this question. In Greek again, Σίμων Ιωάννου, ἀγαπᾷς με, πλέον, τούτων. I made my distinction here just to say more corresponds to pleon. E pleon is more, much more abundantly, more deeply, more complete. This word, more or pleon, brings the intensity of the whole question of Jesus. Jesus, again, just not didn't ask just do you love me, but do you love me much more abundantly than these other people, this other group, the other disciple, the other part of the world. So our main question will be our constant repetition during this whole 3 next videos, because we will try to understand what we can learn from this point beside our language or our versions we use in our Bible, we have in our diary devotions. So my second part of this analysis talks exactly about how to analyze some expressions. So in this time, we will see here. My first analysis comes through this simple question. Why Jesus asked the same thing for the same person 3 times? Why? I think like this. If he asked 3 times the same thing to 3 different people, it would make more sense to me, I think, because 3 people, the same question is easier to understand. But since these 3 times of questions were for the same person, we do not easily understand the reason why so many repetitions for the same question, right? Therefore, we need to go to the original of the text. So, and then after these 3 questions for the same person, what does each question mean? Had Jesus any additional reason why he was persisting with Peter in the same question, do you love me, do you love me, do you love me, to the same man? Which are the intention Jesus had behind his persistence? Then, my part of my answer is this. It depends on the term, referring to love that Jesus used in each of them, each of question, right? Then the 3 questions, each of them. Which kind of love is what we saw already, I will show very quick. We know already perfect love, ăγάπη, which comes just from God. Ăγάπη will always be the perfect love. Φιλíα is the second category, as the love between people or between person to person. It's just even the love which happens between friends, brother love or siblings, like I show here. Estorge is a family love from parents to children and vice versa. and eros, which is the sexual love. It is not our topic now, so the whole test just include or involve these first and second categories. It's very clear for me because Jesus demanded a very high category of love from Peter, and Peter was very open, showing he was not yet in the high position. He was maybe climbing, but he was yet in the second category. Yes, I love you, God, but I love you with the love filía or philéu, as we can also know. So the third part of my discussion talks about some complementary questions. Then, during my next videos, we'll see together what do sheep and lambs mean. There is any difference between them. So what, according to the Bible, according to this reference, who is a sheep? Who is a lamb? Which difference about maturity, comprehension, discipline, organization, understanding, obedience, sanctification, character, vocabulary, all these things. There is any difference between two when we relate these two words, sheep and lambs, to a ministry of the church. For example, in our church, who is the sheep? Who is the lamb? How each one behave? How is the life, reactions, and words in life, the common life of each one? There is any difference between them? We'll see next video. Also, what does it mean to shepherding and to grace? I see in English, usually I see almost the same word to replace these two different expressions when the references talk about this experience between Jesus and Peter. I see just the word feed, but from the original there is a difference between shepherding and to grace. As we will see, this expression to grace, this verb, means also to give peace, impermanent peace, as we already comment some. And this first shepherding refers to the pastor, and then from this point, which are the main responsibilities and call to pastors, to the pastors or to the pastor we have in the church. I mean, which kind of work or effort God expects from the pastor he put in the church. I believe there is something very, very important. They are even priority, I can say, God expects from each pastor he put in his church. So which are the main responsibility and how through this main responsibility the pastor will bring a permanent peace to the people who are there, listening and learning from him or from her. So we'll talk this part as deeper as we can from the very original language of the New Testament. Who did Jesus associate each one of them? Each of them with. So in this case, pastor and other ministries. So in particular, esse pastor, because it was one of the main emphasis during this conversation between Jesus and Peter. The thing is, the next video we will try to see together and learn as much as we can the difference between these four different terminologies. My final commitment here, according to this verse, is in each response of Jesus, every time Peter says, yes, I love you, Jesus say, as we saw verse 15, feed my lambs, right? Second, he say something similar, just referring to the sheep. And next, something similar. In this point, each time Jesus talked, he received Peter's answer. He commanded him, he called him, he summoned him. engaged and committed Peter to do something. So he commanded. In other words, he gave him an order that could not be disobeyed. It was very important to note in this reference. We will see again next week. Jesus gave him a command, and even if Peter was not really ready to do what Jesus was expecting from him, he was commanding. And this kind of command, Peter could not disobey. He didn't have any option. His only option was to do what Jesus was suggested or asking him to do. Also, he called. What is a call? We are more familiar with this word. When God calls someone else, he separated this person to execute an irrefutable plan on his ministry and his plan, the plan of salvation of the world, right? This call is something we cannot reject, we cannot ignore, we cannot change, we cannot abandon, we cannot. It is irrefutable plan from him. And Peter was in front of this huge challenge. He was not really yet in the level where Jesus wanted to find him, but beside this, Jesus also called him too. Also, he was summoned. What is this in this context? Jesus gave him a order to order someone to come to be in a particular place and do a particular task. So he received a kind of, use again the same word, the command to be in a specific position and do something specific which Jesus was decided. He called him to do. Engaged. This engaged was, my imagination, I think, is connection. He had to be engaged, not just with the people, the multitude, the crowds, but in particular with this call and Jesus' vision. Jesus was calling him not to be one more leader in the middle of so many others, the middle of the crowd, but Jesus was called, engaging Peter to come and position himself firmly in one specific place where Jesus was already decided for him, but also to make the difference in that time, which was his time. So he had to be engaged, because if you know you are not ready to be different, how to make the difference if you are not engaged, if you are not connected, if you don't feel like we are part of this. So he had to engage. And this kind of connection is very important, because if you don't engage, we will not understand our level of responsibility to make the task God is asking us to do. He also committed to being consciously committed to something important. The ministry, the Bible says, is an excellent thing, is an excellent position, is a privilege. But if you don't feel committed, if you are not engaged, if you don't feel it is not for us, I'm not called because I cannot do, I don't understand, I am so little, I am so ignorant, I don't have any preparation, etc., etc., we will not do anything, we will not even understand the level of responsibility where God is planting us, and according to this, the level of expectation the heaven has put in our lives. God does not depend of us, but He expects we obey Him and we honor this position, this place, this spiritual place where He is planting you and me right now to continue to building His kingdom. So Peter was in front of himself. I imagine the conflict he was fighting between who he was yet in all this huge responsibility he was receiving at the same time. from Jesus. Why? Why Jesus committed him for all this huge thing while he was not ready, apparently, because from the question, his answer, he probably will not really ready. So why does this mean? And one thing I take here very important is, when we love God, we want to do something to please him. No matter if we think we are not ready, we cannot, we don't have preparation, we never studied, all these excuses we have, no matter. Any Christian, even we don't need to wait to become a pastor or to be called to be a pastor, we have something to share to others about our God. And if we love him, we will do, even we will enjoy doing what we need to do as a Christian. My personal conclusion here is, again, come back to the very main question. Simon, son of John, do you love me more abundantly than this? Sίμων Ιωάννου, ἀγαπᾷς me with a perfect love, much more deeply, much more completely than this. So do you know something, brothers and sisters? We can understand today and where we are, the level where God is expecting us, our answer, our reaction, our manifestation. Even, I believe, we can even change the name if we can, if we want to do. We can move, for example, the name Piro and put our names. For example, if I put my name, I can say, Carmen, do you love me? And then, which kind of love, which type, or which category of love I will use to answer God this question. And also, how I will feel inside of this context of conversation between God and me, between you and God. How we will feel if you, for a second only, change the name, instead of Peter, put your names, and think which kind of love I will use to answer him. Yes, God, I love you with your ăgάπη love, or I am yet a little down, a little poor, a little immature, and then I love you with φιλíα love, an imperfect love. But we think about this and try to make this experience. So these questions and others we have yet will be answered through the first, second, and third part of our discussion, because today we are just in an introduction, very fast, because you stop in all these details in the next video. I mean, the 3 parts we will have from next week. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this first very brief introduction, and then see you there next video. Okay, bye bye.